All right. All right. I unmuted the mic. Seems like we're connecting out through social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. It looks like it's Wednesday night and it's 7 o'clock, 7:01, according to my clock here at the moment. So you know what time that means. It is time for the South Carolina Normal Cannabis Conversation. Um, Hopefully we have an interesting one for you tonight. Let me kind of go and click through my buttons here. I'm not paying attention tonight. There we go. There we go. Let's give it a minute or so. Let's see if we get some folks here to join us into the podcast tonight. Should be kind of interesting, I think. You can tell me. Um, but as we normally do, I like to start our podcast with the comment that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. Also, at this point in the intro, I do kind of like to remind you to visit our website at scnormal.org. Click on the About drop down menu. You'll find down there at the bottom a link to our sponsors. And go check out our sponsors, support our sponsors as they help support us in our efforts to reform marijuana laws here in South Carolina. Oh, wrong banner for that one. That was this one here. And last but not least, don't forget to follow us on social media. Especially like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the notification bell so you can get notified when we're going live. And don't forget to share with your friends. Helps the algorithm on any of our social media. We do tend to post a little bit more regularly to Facebook. We are still trying to post on a somewhat regular, occasional on our blog. But yeah, follow us out there. Try to keep up on what we're doing and what's going on with South Carolina Normal. Okay, so that was that. That was that. Let me switch over to this one here and peek at the time. 7:03. Excuse me. 7:03. We are planning to have a guest on with us tonight. Actually, let me start with the intro. My name is Scott Weldon. I am the executive director of the South Carolina chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, uh, also known as NORML. And our agenda tonight, first half of the program, at least I'm believing, if we get our guest to log on. Let me kind of check here, see if I have any emails or info from them. Um, is a young fellow from the North Charleston area, Brandon Trollinger. He is running for City Council District 6. Um, as we've talked on the program a number of times before, I find these city council races that are going on right now kind of intriguing. It's kind of important as well because the city council members, um, could be our avenue to starting to decrim on a municipal level here in South Carolina. Um, we're having, as you all know, if you've been following the state legislature and the medical bill, um, and any of the other proposed cannabis reform legislation, um, it doesn't move far. It doesn't move fast. Um, they've been struggling for, I think it's over 8 years now with the medical bill, the Compassionate Care Act. Um, you know, it's coming slow, and I think really, and I've said it on our podcast a number of times. I think the better way to start protecting our citizens is to decriminalize at a municipal level simple possession of an ounce or less. Make it at most a civil citation. Although we promote a no fine, no time, no court cost type of decrim. Um, so anyway, uh, this young fella has aspirations to um, serve your community and also to kind of implement social justice and look at it from a younger perspective. So that'll be our program this evening. And I see he is joining in the back room here at the moment. So we will be bringing him in on the call and on the podcast in just a couple of more minutes. But with that said, guess what time it is? Click the right button here. Time for our first cannabis question. I picked out three of them ahead of time. Let's see if I get three done tonight. You never know. You used to get the first one done, sometimes the second, not always the third. Third, we have a 30-point question in knowledge category. Knowledge category, 30-point question. This author, considered the master of horror, said, I think marijuana should not only be legal, it should be a cottage industry. Was that Eli Roth, John Carpenter, Stephen King, or Anne Rice? Again, that question, knowledge category, 30-point. This author, considered the master of horror, said, I think marijuana should not only be legal, it should be a cottage industry. Was that Eli Roth, John Carpenter, Stephen King, or Anne Rice? If you have a guess, put it in the comment section there. Usually at this time, I make a real quick promo that if you would like to sponsor one of our cannabis questions, trivia questions, contact me through the contact page on our website, and I'll give you some information on how you can promote your business and help promote cannabis law reform here in South Carolina. All right, let's see. I'm on it tonight. Clicking the next banner over. Cannabis trivia answer. Again, knowledge category, 30-point question. The answer to tonight's question, and the question is, this author, considered a master of horror, said, I think marijuana should not only be legal, it should be a cottage industry. Was it Eli Roth, John Carpenter, Stephen King, or Anne Rice? Let me check here in the comments. I am not seeing answers in the comment section. The answer there, my friends, is Stephen King. Similar to what I always say, it should be similar. It should be a lot like the craft brewing industry, a cottage industry type thing like that. That's where I would see, um, like the small organic farms and craft brewing and that kind of stuff. I could definitely see that with the cannabis industry. All righty, let me just kind of double check where we are here tonight. We are at 7:08. And turn off that clicker. I have no actual headlines to pop down here in the banner section. Excuse me. Excuse me. Let me hit mute once. Oh, sorry about that. So let's just get right to it. We're going to invite in our guest, Brian Trollinger. So I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. He's going to introduce himself to us a little bit and tell us, a little bit about himself as we get started, and then we'll kind of go into some of the questions, asking him a bit about, his focus on his campaign and what his opinions are on cannabis and decrim and that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let me see if I can click the right buttons here and bring Brandon in, and he turned the mic on. All right, we're good to go. Brandon, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
How you doing,
Here on the Cannabis Conversation. Doing great, doing great. Can you take a moment, tell the crowd, tell the folks out there in podcast land a little bit about yourself and kind of what inspired you to run for political office at such a young age?
Hey, my name is Brandon Trollinger. I'm 25 years old, and I'm running for City Council, N.Charleston City Council District 6 this November. And I served 6 years in South Carolina Army National Guard, 4 years as a substitute teacher. I'm a local human and social activist here in North Charleston, and some of my policies are, and the whole message of my campaign is to get more young people involved in the voting process and, getting to know local politics and the effects that it has on their daily lives. And, I believe that everybody should have 3 meals a day for their bodies. I don't believe that people should be paying property taxes for properties that they already paid for. They already spent 20 years working so hard trying to, pay off, make ends meet paying off that mortgage. And then now they have an extra expense because they have to pay taxes on it. So all in all, at the end of the day, you don't really own a property, you rent it, as I would say. So that, and then I also want to propose to decriminalize marijuana, like create an ordinance to decriminalize simple possession of marijuana here in North Charleston. I think that the prohibition on marijuana has affected a lot of young people and a lot of minority communities. And by decriminalize it, I believe that we can save a lot of taxpayers a lot of tax dollars. We could spend a lot of money. We could save a lot of money on court proceedings, over policing, and just the whole process. And it's a natural source. You can grow cannabis in your backyard. It's not like they're manufacturing, other drugs and things like that. But marijuana, my whole stance on it is pretty much I just wish it was legal, because even if you don't support it, like that whole property tax thing, if marijuana was legalized recreationally and medically, you wouldn't have to pay property taxes. You wouldn't have to be taxed on your food and other necessities that you need, because the taxation based off the marijuana would cover that expense. So I'm not going to talk your ear off. I'm going to give it back to Scott here.
All right. Well, I do appreciate that. Of course, my position, decrim is definitely going to help protect our communities and help protect our young people. But let me kind of go ahead, and you answered my first question right off the bat, is what's your stance on decrim in North Charleston? If you would, get a seat on the city council. And how do you think, decriminalizing cannabis would contribute to the criminal justice reform overall in the city? I know there's a lot of crime reported in the area when I've got to watch social media. Hi, little one.
Hey, my daughter.
We have little ones join us on the podcast every now and again. But yeah, how do you feel that would affect justice reform overall? You had mentioned like making policing more efficient. Let me kind of throw this out. My thoughts on it, what I've heard a lot, is quite often just the booking process for a simple cannabis possession can take hours. Though it should only take a couple of hours at the most. I've been told sometimes it can take 6 hours. It's extending people's shifts at times. I don't know about here locally, but I've heard it happening in the police community. And these are hours not only in the booking process, but then of course in the criminal justice system, going to court. And these are hours that could be spent a whole lot more efficiently fighting real crime and not criminalizing people who are just trying to, feel better.
Yeah, 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 you're right about that. So the whole thing, like you said, you already mentioned it, but just the whole process, I believe that decriminalizing marijuana and pushing our focus more on the opioid epidemic and the fentanyl crisis that's taking place here in the Low Country, because that's out of hand. Implementing Narcan and making it more accessible to the community with proper training and things like that, versus blue lighting somebody because they get a whiff of marijuana, and though they suspect somebody's has marijuana in the vehicle, what often leads to public safety issues, because I know people personally who have gotten high-speed chases because they have less than an ounce in the vehicle, but because they are convicted felons and they get pulled over with that in the vehicle, most of those guys are on papers. That's a parole violation or a probation violation, and that creates more problems. Okay, now they're fleeing from the police, and 9 times out of 10, the police in North Charleston, because of, the lack of ordinance and different laws here in the Low Country, that they often pursue these criminals that are fleeing in the middle of traffic, which is a huge public safety issue. So, and then you go on the west coast of the country, and it's legalized, and then here we go, we're fighting it over here on the East Coast, and people are still getting arrested and criminally charged for that, and it's holding them back. People can't get jobs, people can't get the proper education they need because of these issues. They're too busy fighting legal battles versus trying to better their own lives.
Right. And just a couple of weeks ago, we had Representative Dion Tedder on, and we were talking about his what we call a cannabis smell bill. He's got a bill proposed in the Senate, or I'm sorry, in the House, that the scent of cannabis would not be probable cause to search or seize or arrest someone of that alone. Because we have legalized cannabis here in the state with the hemp bill. It might not be the marijuana that they claim it to be. Um, but you know, I would love to be able to see that legislation move forward, because that really to me would help protect a lot of people. Then they couldn't just say, "Oh, I smell something. Now I want to search your car. Now I want to run you. Now I want to, check you for parole violations." It can really compile, and why? It's really a waste of time, except for the fact, excuse me, except for the fact to get those federal war on drug funds, they have to show results. They have to show that they've been arresting people for cannabis, and actually battling the drug war, so that they can then get more of these federal grants in the following year. So a lot of it's financially based. Let me go ahead and hit you with kind of our next question here. Um, let's see which one I have in order. According to an ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union report that was done back, I want to say 2018, that talked about the racial disparities in cannabis arrests in South Carolina. Um, how do you feel that decriminalizing will help in that fight of over policing of the black communities and the poor communities in our state? Uh-oh, I think your connection froze. Okay, let's see if we get him to join us back here in a moment. Uh, that happens from time to time. A little early for our next cannabis question, but I can give it a shot while we're waiting. Yep, let's go ahead and hit our next cannabis question while we wait to see if Brandon could get logged back on here. This is again a 30-point question, history question on a history category. 30-point question, history category. After the Marijuana Tax Act, Samuel Caldwell was the first person arrested selling marijuana in 1937. How long was his jail sentence? Well, this is a great question considering the anniversary of his arrest was just, I think, 2 days ago. Was it 2 years, 10 years, or 4 years? Again, while we wait for Brandon to get resituated and connected here, we're doing a cannabis question, 30-point history category. After the Marijuana Tax Act, Samuel R. Caldwell is actually his middle initial, not here on the card. Samuel R. Caldwell was the first person arrested selling marijuana in 1937. How long was his jail sentence? Was it 2 years, 10 years, or 4 years? Leave your guess there in the comment section if you have a guess. 2 years, 10 years, 4 years. Don't forget, if you'd like to sponsor our trivia questions, contact me through the contact page on our website. And let's go ahead and hit this answer before we bring Brandon back in with us here. History category, 30-point question. After the Marijuana Tax Act, Samuel Caldwell was the first person arrested selling marijuana in 1937. How long was his jail sentence? 2 years, 10 years, or 4 years? An answer I didn't know. It was a 4-year sentence. 4-year sentence for Samuel R. Caldwell. October 2nd, I believe he was either arrested or convicted. Arrested, I believe. All righty, I see Brandon's connected back in. Let me add him to the call here and see if we can get back to it. I'm not sure how much of that last question he actually heard. So let me see if I can hit him with that question again. Brandon, back in, and I see you are on mute at the moment. Back about 2018, the ACLU came out with a report called "The Tale of Two Countries." Talked about the racial disparities in arrests and the marijuana arrest in South Carolina, across the country as well as in South Carolina. Um, how do you feel the decriminalization will help in um, addressing those racial disparities in arrests in our communities?
I believe that decriminalizing it, that process, how it will affect and improve racial disparity in communities. I would say not only that when we decriminalize it, we can get those records expunged and cleared so people can get proper jobs and get down the proper path. And not only that, that will I believe address the racial bias in officers uh, towards people in minority communities when they get pulled over and things like that. And like I mentioned earlier, public safety. Once somebody gets in a high speed chase or something like that, or just gets blue lighted and gets irate or out of hand, it just eliminates a various amount of problems. It just off the gate, it eliminates half of the battle right there. Just decriminalizing it, getting people's records cleared, giving them the proper education. I believe that instead of arresting people for marijuana related charges, some of these people are just consuming it recreationally, and you have another demographic that are just selling it. If they can sell marijuana, they can start a business. Why can't we create programs to help them educate them about the cannabis industry and get them on the path to if they want to build a career in that industry, we give them the proper education, the proper guidance to do that, and proper programs to address those issues.
Thank you. Thank you. A good answer. I like that. And that's one thing we do talk about quite often here on the podcast is people get a drug arrest, and all of a sudden they can't get that assistance in um, housing assistance or education assistance or trying to better their lives. One thing I always kind of bang my head against the wall of that is people talking about, oh, cannabis consumers, they're just lazy. They don't want to do anything. Why don't they just go out and get a job? And then when you go out to get a job, they say, oh, well, if you want a job, you have to pee in a cup and prove that you don't consume cannabis. And I'm like, well, yeah, kind of a catch-22 on that one. Um, just the irony of that just sort of drives me a little bit crazy. Um, if we were able to pass a decrim ordinance in North Charleston, um, how do you ensure that law enforcement officers are going to be adequately trained and informed about the changes in cannabis laws for decrim?
We would obviously have to start in the local police department and implementing programs to properly prepare them and educate our officers on the new laws and the new decriminalization process, so that they know proper procedures when they do come across people that do have marijuana in their vehicles or in their possession. So
Now, I moved to South Carolina from Pennsylvania back in 2016, before founding South Carolina NORML, at that time, Low Country NORML. I lived close to a place called Allentown, Pennsylvania, and some people are familiar with it just because of a Billy Joel song. But anyway, I remember back when the city of Allentown decriminalized, and I don't think I lived there at the time. I think I had already moved, or I may have lived up in that area. I didn't live in the city of Allentown, but I lived nearby. And I remember when they decriminalized simple possession in the city, at a city council level, and created this new ordinance. The local Allentown police kind of balked at it and instead said, well, the state law says this. We're going to follow state law and to heck with your city ordinance. Um, if you would have that kind of pushback from North Charleston Police Department, how do you plan on navigating a relationship between the city policies and the state regulations advocating for decriminalization?
I'm the type of guy I like to go straight to the root of the problem. I would hold them to the fire, continue to educate them, and continue to put pressure on them to get them to understand and realize that, this is we're trying to run a city here, and we're trying to better the lives of the quality of lives of everybody here in our city. And this is the, step in the right direction. Their resistance isn't making it easier on city council and the mayor. Neither is it making it easier on the citizens. Their resistance, I think it's selfish. And that's something that we would have to all come to the table. And like I said, their leadership and our leadership would have to come to the table and understand what the ordinance is and what it is that we're going to do here in North Charleston, what we're going to allow here in North Charleston. So
I like that. I was doing a little bit of research to try to figure out, the process from a city council avenue on how to pass a local ordinance. And what I was reading is, there's a number of steps involved, identifying the need, which we know there's a need to decriminalize simple possession, to at least, in my opinion, a civil citation. Although we promote a no fine, no time, no court cost type decriminalization, where they might confiscate you a little bit of weed and shoo you off and say, "Don't let me see you around here," kind of thing, wag their finger at you. Civil citation, I've seen some cities do a $25, maybe $100 kind of traffic ticket. But we do need to, we know that the need is to not charge them with a misdemeanor and put them in prison for, 30 days, which I've seen happen too often, and not get them hooked into the criminal justice system. So we know there's the need. Secondly, there's the drafting of the ordinance. And I believe I sent you a copy of one of our ordinance drafts. We could basically kind of copy and paste that with the name North Charleston in as the municipality, and finding the correct ordinance structure number to put in there. And then you've got a draft. And that draft could at that point probably be run by what's it say here? Once the need for the ordinance is identified, the city's legal department or city attorney will draft a proposed ordinance. It doesn't have to be the city attorney. It can be drafted by the city council member or wherever they get the draft from. Then there's the review process, and it might get sent to a committee or a subcommittee to be reviewed. And in some cases, this will just allow for more in-depth examination and potential revisions if need be. At that point, there would be a public hearing. Then when you start getting the public involved, and that kind of, it leads to my next question, which I'll get to in a moment. After that, getting the public hearing, there's the first reading, there's the second reading, and then there's a final vote on that ordinance. And then, of course, implementation after that. Let me go back and grab my question here on that. Is do you see a way forward in involving community members, including those that might have differing opinions on this, and getting them involved in this decision-making process?
Yes, sir. I think that a plethora of town hall meetings, and town hall meetings is I believe is a very good start by getting the community out there, getting them an opportunity to voice their opinion, and getting to city council, because you're going to need a 6 majority. Eventually, you're going to need a 6 majority on city council based on the type of municipality we have here in North Charleston. So I honestly don't think that's going to be a fight. Just speaking to current city council members, some that are running unopposed, that are already for the bill that since you've last sent to me, I've already met with 2 of them. So including me would be 3. And then if my other 3 my buddies pull it off, then we'll be in there. So, and I think that
Nice.
once we get it past in North Charleston, that would set the tempo and set the standard for other cities to think about passing the ordinance. And I believe that to starting out to get it passed and proposed the first time around, I believe that obviously we don't want to put any criminal record. We don't want any misdemeanors or felonies on anybody's record. But even though we're still pushing to decriminalize it, it's still not legal. Okay, yet. Right. So there has to be some sort of consequence. I would say anywhere from $25 to $100 fine. It's a basic fine, and maybe throw away the weed that's on their possession. That's it. Nothing more than $100. That way, the city understands that hey, they could be they could still make money from these traffic stops, and I believe that anybody that the communities that they're having these traffic stops in and these people that they're pulling over, that money that they're paying for these fines, for these citations, needs to go directly back into those communities. Okay. And the community needs to know and have some sort of proof of track record of where that money's actually going to. I don't think that's a bad deal.
No, transparency is not a bad thing at all. Yeah. Who would think that except law enforcement, it seems. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound anti-law enforcement, but anyhow, let me go ahead. I have another question because I'm sort of curious about this. Is if your motivation, do you have any personal experience or stories that have influenced you in your position on either cannabis decriminalization or in criminal justice reform in general?
Repeat that first part again. Sorry.
Do you have any personal experience or stories that influenced your decision or position on either cannabis decriminalization or just on criminal justice in general?
I served 6 years in the military. I've been overseas twice. Okay. My whole take on it is pretty much I've been a consumer. Publicly be honest about that. And, I've been to Oregon once they've decriminalized everything and made marijuana legal and stuff like that. Been to Colorado. And I spent, because I run a moving company, I spent a plenty amount of time in states that it's been legal. And I've seen the production there, from, the legalization of marijuana and, just from my knowledge of it, even before they started legalizing everything, I think it's really like a symbol of peace, people. It's not like when you have 3 or 4 beers, with your buddies or something like that. Somebody has a little bit too much to drink and they start going crazy. No, with marijuana, you might smoke a little bit too much. You might either get a little bit too hungry or a little bit too sleepy. Most people don't, get behind the wheel and go crazy and things like that. I think that legalizing, I got a slower roll. I wanted to legalize it so bad, but decriminalize it will bring unity back into the community. I think it will decrease violence, and pretty much the market on the streets, people won't really be able to, they'll still be slinging it on the streets and selling marijuana on the streets. But if you legalize it, that's less trafficking that law enforcement, I believe, would have to, worry about as far as like street deals and things like that. So that, that's a plus, man. I mean,
yeah. And one thing I hear quite often when they talk about, crime, they talk about for the prison system, they talk about recidivism. Recidivism. I can't even pronounce it right. There you go. People getting back into the system. And I believe the trigger on that many times is, again, somebody's stopped by law enforcement and it's that either pretending to smell cannabis or they do actually smell cannabis. And it's that simple possession, that simple infraction that kind of gets them, keeps them in the loop. and keeps them, besides the other residual consequences that we talked about. So yeah, I think decriminalization would definitely help in that respect as well. Um, Let me just look at one of my other questions. I don't have a whole lot about. I think we've kind of covered it all. Now, I do want to ask you a little bit about the election. I believe early voting starts October 23rd. Is that correct? Do you know?
Yes, sir. October 23rd through, I believe, November 3rd is early voting. So October 23rd to November 3rd, and then November 7th is the general election.
Yes, November 7th is our generals. So we'll be watching all the elections. We'll be watching the North Charleston City Council election. We wish you well on that. Folks, if you are in North Charleston in District 6, I couldn't tell you who his opponents are, if any. I just like his position. Vote for Brandon, and let's see if we can make North Charleston a better city. Any
Thank you so
closing
much.
comments you'd like to make with us tonight, Brandon?
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Weldon, for having me on. Thanks for your support, and I look forward to working with you guys. Like I said, my name is Brandon Trollinger, 25 years old. I'm looking to serve the people. I'm here to serve you guys. And if there's anything anybody ever need, please feel free to reach out. I'm a strong advocate for the homeless, education in the youth, affordability, transparency, and bringing unity back into the community with workforce development, more activities and extracurricular activities for our youth and our seniors and things of that nature. Once again, my name is Brandon Trollinger, your candidate for North Charleston City Council District 6. Thank you, Mr. The NORML organization, and Mr. Scott. You guys are doing tremendous work, and me and Mr. Tedder look forward to working with you.
Excellent. I look forward to the elections, and like I said, wishing you all the best. We'll be in touch for sure. And again, besides the elections, I look forward to working with you as well to try and see if we can get North Charleston decriminalized.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Brandon. Have a great evening.
Thank
you. All right. That was a great conversation. Ina's here. Hey, Ina, Predator Congressman Nancy Mace. Does she support? Nancy supports descheduling at the federal level. She's spoken about it in Congress. She is was the sponsor of the States Reform Act. I haven't talked to Nancy since I think April or so. And excuse me, get dry there. At that time, she told me she was going to be reintroducing the State Reform Act in a light version, which I'm not quite sure what that means, but there were some social equities in there that maybe she'll remove or something like that, make it a straight fee schedule similar to the other one. And then she mentioned some other smaller bills. I don't know. But I must admit, she's been active. Definitely see her in the news. I tuned in. I tend to watch at night the PBS NewsHour. So I kicked that on about 6 o'clock as I'm putting dinner on the table. And I think I saw her on there again last night. I think probably talking about the Kevin McCarthy thing. But yeah, she's been out there quite a bit. Quite a bit. Josh Griffin's with us. Hey, Josh, good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. And it is dangerous out there, especially like we were just talking about. I'm sorry, I had to just laugh at that comment. I just saw pop up. Dangerous out there, especially up in North Charleston. It's a dangerous city. Hopefully we can get things kind of safer up there. I'd like to thank you to Brandon. I appreciate that, Ina. Of course, the "Let's Go Brandon" made me laugh. So Uh, yeah, probably not a good slogan for his campaign. Too funny, too funny. But I gotta give him a lot of credit. 25 years old. Um, I think before he actually uh, filed for his candidacy for District 6 City Council, he was talking about going right to being mayor of North Charleston. He's going to go and clean up that city from the top down. Uh, but my understanding was he kind of consulted with his campaign team, and they went, why don't you go city council first? And to be quite honest with you, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, as far as we're concerned for decrim, city council is a perfectly fine position to start moving forward with a decrim ordinance in your city. I love some of the conversation we had with them and talking with some other either candidates that are running unopposed and or I don't know if you said sitting council members um, that and looking at the drafts of the ordinance that we gave them that I would be excited to do anything we can do to help them move that forward. Um, we'll see. We'll see. Um, Matter of fact, he has a Facebook page. I forgot to ask him which page to uh, share. He got one is Brandon Trolley, Trolley, and of course the profile picture is a vote Brandon Trollinger um, sticker, and that one looks like it has a few more followers and is a busier posted page. So if you're in North Charleston, District 6, go check them out. Um, we would definitely love to, like I said, make some waves. Um, North Charleston, if I understand correctly, is the third largest city in the state. Charleston being the largest, Columbia being the second. And then North Charleston, I believe, is third, followed not too far behind by Mount Pleasant, which is just a few miles away as well. Um, so yeah, we've got a lot of population in this area, and if we could just get, dang, if we could get Charleston and North Charleston to Mount Pleasant, uh, that would be a heck of a start. Um, Somerville, Goose Creek, Hanahan are all again, I think, in the top 20 maybe or so like that. Um, Gosh, what I wouldn't do to get Columbia and get under uh, McMaster's skin. But anyway, great conversation. Great. Best of luck to him. Brandon might. Oh, what did I just click on? Brandon might be the next South Carolina governor. Hey, you never know. I mean, He's got some fire in his belly. Um, we can only hope. As I said in the comment before that one, we need the next generation getting involved. Um, so go for it. What do you got here for me, Josh? Did you see Trump visited the Palmetto State Armory and our AG was following him around like a puppy? Guess he doesn't have anything to do. Oh, I saw. What was I watching? I think I was watching something about the Murdaugh trials or something like that. And I thought it was an actor playing frickin' Alan Wilson. I said to my wife, "Oh man, that looks just like Alan Wilson." She goes, "It is Alan Wilson." I'm like, "Oh no!" So I sat and watched a little bit of it, but it didn't make me feel well listening to him, even though it had nothing to do about cannabis. Just listening to him. Yeah. Anyway, um, I did see he visited the Armory. Trump visited the Palmetto State Armory. Oh, all right. Where are we at? 7:45. You know what? While I'm thinking about it, I have the third and last cannabis trivia question here tonight. Oh, we should all know this one, I'm pretty sure. Movies is the category. 30-point question. Movies category 30-point question. After smoking some weed, two stoners try to get to their favorite restaurant while encountering many obstacles along the way. Their favorite restaurant is White Castle, Taco Bell, or McDonald's. Leave your answers in the comment section. Movies category 30-point question. After smoking some weed, two stoners tried to get to their favorite restaurant while encountering many obstacles along the way. Was that restaurant White Castle, Taco Bell, or McDonald's? Come on, I know y'all know it. I couldn't even tell you the title of the movie, but all right. And as I usually do on these, just a real quick comment. If you would like to sponsor our trivia question and have us mention your business, reach out to us through our contact page on our website at scnormal.org or normalsc.org if you're feeling a little uh, adventurous. Josh's answer. What restaurant were you going to again? And he's got the right answer down there, I see. After smoking some weed, two stoners tried to get to their favorite restaurant while encountering many obstacles along the way. Was it White Castle, Taco Bell, or McDonald's? Josh tells us it is White Castle, and he is absolutely correct. Thanks for playing along, y'all. Awesome. Boy, it's a little bit before ending time tonight. I don't have a whole lot more I need to talk about. A couple things I do want to talk about. Mute for beverage. A couple things I want to talk about. As you know, if you've been kind of tuning in the past couple of weeks or following some of our social media, we've done a little bit of refocusing where we're going, what we're doing, and we have, announced our um, press conference, lobby day, and cannabis rally on the steps of the State House. Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. That's Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. And the big add on this year over our past two press conferences and lobby days is the rally segment of it. So we are hoping to kind of emulate and work with some of our friends that had put on another cannabis rally this past February after our press conference and lobby day. And we've got some support there, which is awesome. So again, we're planning for our press conference to kick off at about 9:30 in the morning. Um, I'm just finishing up our applications. I'm going to get those out to the State House this week. Um, and so our press conference will start. I've got it roughly 9:30. It will officially start. That's what I'll be announcing to the media outlets. My goal for the press conference this year is to get as many legislative sponsors that have sponsored some sort of pro-cannabis reform legislation, whether it's like Representative Tedder and his smell bill. After the election, he may be Senator Tedder by then. We'll see. Cross our fingers and vote if you were in District 42. Excuse me, Senate District 42. Also, we know there's a number of other legislators that have sponsored pro-cannabis legislation. Off the top of my head, we've got Mia McLeod, who sponsored a state-level descheduling bill. We've got, I just blanked. We've got, I think, two or three, and I don't remember the names offhand of the sponsors. Generic decrim bills, but because I say generic because I think they're all kind of copy and paste of one another. But there are a couple of decrim bills out there, and I'm trying to think what else off the top of my head. of course, the medical bills and the veteran support bills. Um, so we're hoping to get our speakers for inside at the press conference segment to be legislators. And we want to be able to, again, reiterate this year that our push and our drive is for decriminalization, to stop locking people up for simple cannabis possession, to stop saddling them with these residual consequences, all that kind of fun stuff. So that is the push for the press conference itself. As we start to break out of the press conference and go about our what we do for the lobbying section, at that point, usually we have members of our board or other volunteers escorting constituents around the State House grounds to their legislators' offices, and stopping in and either trying to have a meeting with their, a legislator, which we'll try to schedule ahead of time. If we're unable to schedule an appointment, a meeting with them for you, we'll still stop by their office, and that way you can drop off um, a note, letter, the information that you'd like to share. So we'll be working with you over the next couple months on kind of getting those testimonials written out, just in case they are unable to meet with you officially. And having them written out like that, it's great to have, even if you are able to meet with them in person, that you can have it as a reference and to leave behind. So, um, following that, like I said, we're expecting the press conference to run till, uh, if we start at 9:30, I think a couple years back we ran about 45 minutes till, so it might be, a little after 10 or something like that. And we are planning on having the uh, rally out on the front steps, kicking up at about 10:30. There, we're hoping to set up a speaker podium for people that may want to tell their stories about cannabis arrest or benefits that they've had from cannabis or things of that nature, um, along with you know, rallying and probably some other speakers we don't know at this moment. Um, but we have started recently on top of the rally, lobby day stuff in our rally. Um, I'm blanking here. We have kicked off our vilified stories series. So visit our website if you have a story that you'd like to share that is either a simple cannabis possession arrest or a I got stopped by cops. They claimed to smell weed. They searched everything. They found nothing. No charges kind of thing. And the third one that we have active right now is if you are a parent. We're calling that category basically parenting, cannabis, and CPS, Children Protective Services. So if you have a story in dealing with Children Protective Services and you're being a parent, again, reach out to us and we're going to share those stories. I've been getting a lot of contact, or more contact, should I say, with local businesses, especially since these local police departments are sending out these kind of variations of the Alan Wilson opinion letter, telling them that Delta 8 isn't legalized by the hemp bill, and blah, 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 blah. So they're raiding shops, they're arresting people. Um, we are planning on starting a category for them to be able to tell their stories as well. Entrepreneurs that are being demonized, vilified, criminalized, for trying to operate a legal business here in South Carolina. So, um, Josh is asking, are we going to have any bullies there this year? Any opposing rallies? Not that I'm aware of on our day. Although I know there's got to be pushback. Definitely. Who was I speaking with? Was it you, Josh? It may not have been. Um, there's one of the very vocal. Um, I want to say they claim to be a religious-based nonprofit. Um, very vocal. I'm blanking on the name now. Palmetto Family something, Palmetto family. They've been very vocal against cannabis, and I'm sure if we show up there, or even if if the medical bill starts moving, I wouldn't doubt that they'd show up there and rally. So, um, you know, bullies are bullies. I mean, to be quite honest with you, the entire prohibition of cannabis is just bullying of cannabis consumers. Uh, the Ehrlichman said it about him and Nixon. They knew that. Uh, they couldn't make it illegal to be anti-war or black, but if you could criminalize them and demonize them on the news and raid their homes and raid their meetings and arrest them, uh, you could shut down their activities. Uh, that really hasn't changed. I don't see it necessarily happening here today in this kind of stuff, but um, especially because we do so much of our stuff on the internet now and not in a local hall. Um, but I've had a lot of people tell me over the years, oh, I'm afraid to get involved and speak out about cannabis because I'm afraid of retaliation, whether it's by local law enforcement, someone in my family, my business. My boss finds out I'm advocating, they make me pee in a cup. People are afraid to speak out because of the retaliation of them utilizing their free speech and standing up for cannabis. So I understand it. But I'm hoping we can get people to come out to our rally January 24th, Wednesday, January 24th. Show up for our press conference, hold some signs at 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning. Be there by 9 for our 9:30 start. Stick around after that for the rally. Um, we are again starting to work on some of the details on that right now. Josh has got here information. I am currently, and I had somebody else. It's sort of funny because I had somebody else hit me earlier today about making some sort of flyer or something to promote it. Um, I started working on it yesterday. Um, Sometimes the process is a little slow for me, and I'm not real quick at getting these things put together. I stared at it for a while today and kind of made another box and moved it here and took another element and took it out. And I went, uh, oh, I've got to do a conversation. So I will get back to it. It won't be too long. I will have some sort of flyer, like I said, hopefully by the end of this week. And we're at Wednesday, so it doesn't give me much time. By the end of this week, I will get the requests for those spaces in because we're requesting the indoor lobby on the 24th early and then slightly later the outdoor front steps with electricity for our DJ and our speaker podium there. And let me see what else. We talked about elections. We talked about lobby day. Uh, Advocacy packs. Some of you may remember I had put out there not too long ago. Oh, look at the time, we're almost done. About our advocacy packs. We have them out there on our website. Your first one's free, just pay shipping. I've tried to modify the shipping so you can send it first class post instead of priority mail. Might save you a couple of bucks on it. And Josh kind of said the same thing. I'm sort of working on one where I can send you all a PDF. It can be printed out because that was somebody else requested the same thing. Send me a copy or send me something. I can print it out and pass them around locally here. So yeah, we'll get something together and we will share it out there on social media. And I'll make sure, Josh, that I send you one direct link to you as well. So. That's it. I see we're rolling right up on 8 o'clock, so I'm just going to kind of call it for the evening. I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate you coming out and spending some time with me talking about cannabis law reform in South Carolina. It's like the weekly bang my head against the wall and shake my fist at the rain. But we're going to get there. We're going to get there. I've had some hope having a young man like Brandon on today. If we get more legislators that start even in the municipal level supporting at least decrim first step. We'll get there. We will get there. All right, y'all. That's it. As always, kind of keep in touch. You know how to reach us through our website and follow us on Facebook. We post there more than often. Other places. Please don't forget to like and share some of our stuff if you find it interesting. Um, don't forget, Griffin for Governor 2024, 26. I don't know. One of those. Have a night. Good night. Thanks for being here. Bye bye now.